All right, now we are back. If you watched the first video, I described how we've got our center support bearing removed from the front drive shaft. We've got the new one here. This part number is HB6, HB-6. It's a national brand bearing. We're going to use this to replace our bad bearing. And here is our old bearing, and I will try to get this close enough for you to hear it. But that noise is not what we want. So we're going to go ahead and get this one set back in place and make sure we go on the correct way. Alright, this old one has an F stamped around it, and this will be the front. The new one does not have an F, but you can tell by the inside ring which one that they're similar in this direction. We're going to go ahead and slide our new bearing into place, get it on there as far as we can. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our spline here, line up my marks to get them as close as I can, and we'll press this on, and we have our nut and our washer. The new one does come with a new nut and washer, but I think for this application I'm going to stick with the original. And of course we're going to start getting a little bit of rain here, so I'm going to get this part wrapped up and get under the truck. I'm just setting this on there far enough that I can catch it with the nut. So we'll slide our washer on, start our nut here, try to start our nut. Of course, now it's going to give me some problems. All right. Now we have our spline back in place. We are going to set our drive shaft up into place here. It should slide in. Sometimes you got to spend a little time just kind of lining things up, but it will just set back in. It'll slide in just like that. Now, this nut right here, it did give me just a little bit of trouble because I had some goobered up threads there, but I cleaned them up and that nut went on. I just ran it on till it was tight. Now there may be a torque spec for that nut, but I just ran it back on until it was all the way on, tight with my impact. We're going to set our support there, bring our shaft forward, and it'll sit right in this cradle just like this. And then we're going to set our upper support over top. And it'll drop down just like that. And we have our 14mm nuts, one on each side, that we'll put back in place just like this. Start one side down pretty good. Make sure everything is still sitting in these ridges. You can kind of see there's a little lip where that bearing will sit into. You just want to make sure that everything is just sitting where it's supposed to be, that nothing is cockeyed or crooked. You don't want to bind anything up and break your new parts. So I'm going to tighten these down. Again, there's probably torque specs for these, but it's not a real crucial component. It's just a strap that holds that bearing down. And so it's tight is all the way together when it's all the way set back in place. Now I will go ahead and get my shaft set back in place. Find my marks. So I do have these marks here that I put. I've also got a matching mark here so that I remember which way everything goes back on. So I'm going to set my camera down here. Hopefully it's out of the way enough that I won't go bumping the camera. Get one of my straps started here. Now before I tighten these down, I'm going to go ahead and get the rear of the shaft set in place and get a couple bolts started here. Now I did also mark right here as well, so I can turn this shaft until I also see my marks here. Just like that. Don't know if that's going to make much of a difference because realistically this could spin, and so that wouldn't really be accurate as I thought when I first started, but it helps me. Now these nuts you have to kind of get in place prior. Because of this lip right here, you're going to be unable to get them through if the bolt is all the way in. So before that bolt comes all the way through, set your nuts in place here and then get them started just like that. All right. I'm going to go opposites first just to make sure that I'm on there nice and even. Just like that. Again, my disclaimer for this is if you are a very technical person, you'll want to maybe look for torque specs. But on this old truck, now if this was a job I was doing for someone, I would definitely look up the specs for them just to make sure it was done absolutely correct. But for my own personal vehicle, and with it not being engine or performance related, this should do just fine. All right, now we got to tighten down our U-joint bolts. Let's see if we can come in a little closer here. Now, when I took these off, I had the rear of the drive shaft lowered, and it allowed me for some better angles. But now that the rear of the drive shaft is in place, I'm going to go ahead and use a universal joint here, just to allow me to get in here a little bit easier. Right here, if you can see this, there are a couple little tabs. Make sure that your universal joint is centered from left to right. This has little bump stops so that it won't, when it sits in between those, we know we're in the right spot. Right here, if you can see those, but they are where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up. I'll get one snug before doing the other side. Then I'll go ahead and tighten it up. Tighten this one up. Just like that. Rotate. Do the same here. Tight, good and tight. All right, and with that, we have a new center support bearing, and I hope this helped you out. I know I wasn't able to find an exact video for this online. I figure as much as I use YouTube to find ways to fix things, that it might be good that I put something out there for someone else who's looking. Well, good luck, and God bless.